On 26 April 1986, the number 4 reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine exploded and caught fire, throwing radioactive particles into the air and across the surrounding area. And yet, many of the people of Pripyat, the closest city to the power plant, watched the radioactive cloud on the night of the blast. Within a few hours, many fell ill with severe headaches and uncontrollable fits of coughing and vomiting. It turns out they were not informed about the accident. Even the firefighters who first arrived on the scene were not told how dangerously radioactive the smoke and debris were, thinking it was just a regular electrical fire. Lieutenant Volodymyr Pravik, who commanded the firefighter brigade, died on 11th of May 1986 from acute radiation sickness. The plant was run by authorities from Moscow, so the government of Ukraine didn't receive quick information about the accident. When Valentina Shevchenko asked Vasil Durdinets about the people, he replied that the people were fine and there was nothing to be worried about. However, on the morning of 28 April, the radiation set off alarms at the Forsmark nuclear power plant in Sweden, more than 1,000 kilometers away from Chernobyl. Realizing the radiation didn't come from them, the Swedish government asked the Soviet government about any nuclear incident in Soviet Union, but they denied it. Only when the Swedish government suggested that they were going to file an alert with the International Atomic Energy Agency did the Soviets finally admit that an accident had occurred at Chernobyl. Even after admitting, they kept saying that only a minor accident had occurred. But even to this day, it is one of only 2 nuclear energy accidents that receive the rating of maximum severity on the International Nuclear Event Scale. It cost $700 billion in 2019 and remains the worst nuclear disaster in history. The Soviets initially attempted to cover up the accident from the public, but they were not successful due to the intervention of the international community. The act of covering up and lying is not uncommon. For example, the Ottoman Empire denied the Armenian genocide, even with a large body of evidence documented. And during the Vietnam War, the US Army tried to cover up the My Lai massacre, the largest massacre of civilians by US forces in the 20th century. These acts tried to manipulate the perception of the public, denying access to reality. Lying is a recurring theme in human culture, appearing not only in real-world politics and history, but also in literature and folklore. For example, Pinocchio has become a caricature of liars due to his nose that grows with each lie, symbolizing the inescapable consequences of deceit. Similarly, in The Boy Who Cried Wolf, the boy who consistently lies about a wolf attacking him eventually suffers the consequences when no one believes him during a real attack. In politics, Sun Tzu believed warfare is based on deception, while Machiavelli advised that a prince must master the art of lying and deceiving to maintain power. George Orwell's 1984 takes this theme further, with the party's Ministry of Truth systematically rewriting history to align with state propaganda. These cultural and literary examples illustrate how lies, whether in storytelling or governance, manipulate perceptions and reshape our understanding of reality. The consequences of lying vary in severity, and some lies are more harmful than others. Similar to 1984, Hannah Arendt described the impact of a government that consistently lies to its people. The result is not that people believe the lies, but that they stop believing anything at all. Lying engages with reality, and since reality has a history, one lie often requires rewriting history to make it coherent. This means society is not only subjected to one lie, but to an interconnected web of many lies. Deception is often motivated by personal gain or advantage, and it's especially prevalent in mass communication, where it takes the form of disinformation. Since deception relies on information, it has to be communicated, and in mass communication, disinformation spreads, distorting public perception and reshaping reality on a larger scale. Disinformation is deliberately misleading content spread to deceive the public, often to cause harm. It is typically used to advance political, military, or commercial agendas. relying on half-truths and selective facts to exploit cultural and identity-based issues. While government intelligence agencies are often behind such campaigns, non-governmental organizations and businesses can also be responsible. Social media is a powerful tool for disinformation, with fake news disguised as legitimate articles to mislead the public. In some cases, forged documents and photos are used to spread rumors and fabricate intelligence. For example, Russia has run disinformation campaigns in several African countries, although it denies this. These efforts aim to weaken the West and push back against Western imperialism, shifting the global balance of power in favor of Russia and its allies. Russia has also used disinformation to stir up American isolationism, raise border security concerns, and fuel racial tensions in the United States. The US has been guilty of disinformation as well. During the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, it placed fake articles in newspapers in Islamic majority countries, claiming the Soviets were celebrating Invasion Day. More recently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the US spread disinformation about the Chinese Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine, falsely claiming it contained pork-derived ingredients to stir fear among Muslims, especially as Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines, Cambodia, and Malaysia grew closer to China. The effects of fake news can be damaging, and the rise of the internet has only made the situation worse. Terry Pratchett actually predicted this problem back in 1995 during an interview with Bill Gates, suggesting that fake news would be indistinguishable from legitimate content, even content that had undergone peer review. Gates disagreed, believing that authorities would be able to fact-check and index information more effectively online than in print. Fast forward to today, and it's clear that Pratchett was right. The internet has become a platform where fake news can spread easily, making it difficult for people to distinguish truth from fabrication. As a result, trust in social media and online outlets has eroded significantly, much more than with traditional print and TV media. Fake news is not a new issue. It's been around for centuries. For example, during the Roman period, Mark Antony reportedly took his own life because he believed Cleopatra had died, even though she hadn't. She later followed suit upon hearing of his death. In 1475, a fabricated story in Trent about a Jewish community killing a 2-year-old Christian child led to the arrest and torture of all Jews in the city, with 15 burned at the stake. Lies, especially those rooted in racism, have even been used to justify horrific acts like genocide. This idea of a colossal lie being used to manipulate the masses takes us to the concept of the big lie. In his book, Mein Kampf, Hitler coined the term big lie to describe a lie so massive that people couldn't believe anyone would make it up. He claimed that the Jews used such lies to blame Germany's loss in World War I. The Nazis took this idea of the big lie and twisted it, using it to justify the Holocaust. They capitalized on centuries of anti-Semitism in Europe, claiming that Jews had started World War I and that Germany was just striking back at international Jewry, a conspiracy theory that Jews secretly ran the world. They also pushed the idea that Jews controlled Britain, Russia, and the US and were waging a war of extermination against Germany. So Germany had every right to defend itself and annihilate the Jews in return. However, lying isn't just something humans do. It's been observed in animals too. For example, Coco, the famous gorilla, was once asked who tore a sink off the wall. She pointed to one of her handlers and laughed, as if trying to deflect blame. In the wild, animals like the killdeer are known to fake a broken wing to distract predators from their nest, luring them away from their vulnerable eggs. Sometimes, nature itself pulls off a kind of lie without intentionally meaning to, like when non-poisonous animals mimic the colors and patterns of poisonous ones to deter predators. In addition to this, animals sometimes fake being dead as a defense mechanism when faced with predators. This behavior, known as thanatosis, can be found across various species, including insects, mammals, birds, amphibians, and fish. It's a strategy to either avoid being eaten or escape from immediate danger. Some humans, it seems, have taken inspiration from this tactic, faking their own deaths for various reasons. People have staged their deaths throughout history, sometimes for insurance money, to escape captivity, or even as a prank. One famous case is Timothy Dexter, who faked his own death just to see how people would react. He paid his wife and family to act along with him, giving them specific instructions on how to behave. After the funeral, he caned his wife for not appearing sad enough at his passing. There is also a harmful practice in the medical field when professionals label a patient's accurate experiences as delusional, especially when those experiences seem improbable, like being chased by organized criminals, suspecting infidelity by a spouse, or believing they are being surveilled by law enforcement. This can lead to misdiagnosis. This phenomenon is known as the Martha Mitchell effect, named after Martha Mitchell, the wife of the US Attorney General during the Nixon administration. When she alleged that the White House was involved in illegal activities, her claims were dismissed as the product of mental illness. She even claimed to have been drugged and kept under guard to prevent her from leaving her hotel or making phone calls to the media. However, her allegations turned out to be true when the Watergate scandal was uncovered, earning her the nickname the Cassandra of Watergate. This idea of doubting someone's perception of reality connects with some big questions in philosophy. For instance, Descartes introduced the concept of Deus Deceptor, a being capable of deceiving the thinking ego about reality. This is part of his extreme doubt, where one decides to doubt everything there is to doubt, challenging us to question our knowledge about what's real. His argument suggests that what we think we know about reality might be wrong, as there's always the possibility that we could be deceived. But can lying ever be acceptable, especially when it's done with the intention of achieving a positive outcome? In Plato's The Republic, the concept of the noble lie is introduced, a lie spread by the elites to maintain social harmony. He believed that if people accepted this myth, it would encourage them to care more about the state and one another. In some situations, we may even allow ourselves to be deceived, particularly when revealing the truth could be dangerous. This is often the case with government or military secrets, where withholding the truth is seen as necessary for the greater good. So, should we always tell the truth? Well, Sam Harris argues that we should, because lying denies people access to reality, and that ignorance can hurt them in ways we can't predict. With honest, useful information, they would be better equipped to solve their problems. Maybe your friends need to lose some weight to be happier and healthier, for example. Plus, even small lies can snowball into bigger ones, and eventually, we might lie without even thinking about it. So telling the truth seems like a better option. But of course, it should be done with sensitivity and understanding. But truth isn't always easy to pin down. Even when we try our best, it can get tricky, especially since people can't always agree on what truth actually is. For philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, truth was about accurately reflecting reality through thoughts, words, and symbols available in a language, matching up with a world that's independent of the mind. But some concepts just don't translate well across languages, and different languages might have completely different ways of understanding the same idea, which means language can fail to fully capture what a concept really means. On top of that, things like power struggles, biases, and social influences shape how we see truth. On the other hand, social constructivism argues that truth is shaped by social processes and is tied to the history and culture of specific communities. For example, things like race, sexuality, and gender are seen as socially constructed rather than purely biological. Giambattista Vico believed that history and culture were created by humans, and both Hegel and Marx supported the idea that truth can be socially constructed. While Marx didn't deny the existence of objective truth, he emphasized the distinction between true knowledge and knowledge distorted by power and ideology. But truth can also be dynamic and constantly evolving, at least according to Soren Kierkegaard. He believed that while objective truths, like those in math, science, and history, are important, they don't really tell us much about a person's inner relationship with existence. For that, we need a more subjective view of truth. While objective truths are fixed and final, subjective truths are ongoing and ever-changing. Kierkegaard argued that human truth is something that's always in motion and can't be separated from the personal experience of living, shaped by individual values and essence. Nietzsche took a similar stance, rejecting the idea of objective truth and instead claiming that truth is a human creation shaped by our interpretation of nerve stimuli into images, all influenced by societal norms. In his view, there are no absolute facts, only interpretations, and these truths are subject to reinterpretation and change, influenced by cultural and historical context. Erich Fromm added to this idea, stating that the history of thought is essentially a history of humanity's ongoing approximation to the truth. He also noted that different cultures highlight different aspects of truth. The interaction between cultures, he suggested, could allow for the integration of these various truths, gradually bringing us closer to a fuller understanding. However, while pursuing truth can bring us closer to a deeper understanding, sometimes it can also be overwhelming. In 1997, Brett Blanton, an American psychotherapist, started a movement called radical honesty. This practice encourages complete honesty, no white lies, no sugarcoating. The goal is to reduce stress, deepen connections with others, and minimize reactivity from people. Blanton concluded that his clients were suffering because they were lying. So, he encouraged them to admit their lies and be more open in their everyday lives. Ultimately, he claimed this honesty helped his clients improve their well-being. But while Blanton's view of radical honesty can seem liberating, not everyone agrees with its approach. In 2009, Starlee Kine shared her negative experience with radical honesty, labeling it a cult. She recounted a seminar with Blanton where he was verbally abusive and pressured her to sign a contract to obey him completely for the duration of the event. Despite this, the concept of radical honesty inspired some people to practice it. For example, A.J. Jacobs attempted to live according to its principles for a month in his book. While he acknowledged the liberating potential of radical honesty, he concluded that it should be applied selectively and with caution to avoid harm in relationships. In the end, deception is everywhere, from political cover-ups like Chernobyl to the lies we see in the media every day. It's clear that lying is often used as a tool to control how we see the world. But the more we lie, the more we lose trust, and that's when things start to fall apart. Truth is both a shield and a sword. While deception may sometimes seem necessary, it often carries a heavy price. The stories of those who have been lied to, misled, or misjudged, whether through government cover-ups, fake news, or psychological manipulation, serve as a reminder of the importance of honesty and transparency. The line between truth and fiction may blur, but it is only through seeking truth, even when uncomfortable, that we can hope to restore integrity and trust in our world. Hey guys, thank you for watching. Last time, I rambled about my videos not performing well, but after I posted that, I got my first Patreon member. He's so kind for wanting to support me financially, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, it means so much to me, and you don't know how happy it makes me, so thank you again. Anyway, this will be my last video for 2024, so I want to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and I hope you had a great year. See you next year in the next video, hopefully in 2 weeks. Bye.